Okay, guys, back after a 1 week hiatus. I had a couple podcasts I issued last week that I'd been on, and it's taken me a while to frame how I wanted to talk about this topic. So I'm going to be talking about consistency and intensity. You guys have heard me mention both of these a lot. Oh, if you've listened to me for a while. Two of the drums I beat pretty much constantly. And I got the idea from this. I was listening to a podcast from Miranda Oldroyd, who owns and runs Street Parking, the online CrossFit type programming service. She had brought up some really good points that got my creative juices flowing, and I thought it would be a good thing for me to differentiate with you guys if one is more important than the other. You need both. You need consistency and intensity. That is the short answer from this. But I think I can expound on the role both play. Is one more important than the other or not? So I heard this question asked before. Do I want you to be at the right place, or do I want you to be on time? I want both. I want you at the right place and I want you on time. But if we were going to break that out and carry that analogy out, if you're a little late but you're at the right place, we can probably work with that. If you're on time but you're at the wrong place, we may not be able to work with that. So even within that analogy, I do want you at the right place and I want you on time. Maybe being at the right place is slightly more important. But you need both. So the answer is here, you need both, but which do I need, which is slightly more important than the other, if that is the case. And it lets me bring up a lot of other good points as I talk about this. Consistency, I would say, is over 180 times a year. If you average 3.5 times a week in a 52-week year, that is going to equal 182 times in that year. Now, as you guys know, I would say a 3-time-a-week week is successful. If you came 3 times that week, that was a good week. But I would like you to aspire to and try and maintain more than that. So I'd like you to be over 200 times a year, but if you came 3.5 times a week and made it 182, I would say you're being consistent. What is intensity? Well, I can tell you what it's not. If you can tell me how bad you feel, if you can tell me how your heart is racing and you're out of breath and you need to stop, you're not working intensely yet. In a CrossFit type workout, when I ask you a question and you can't answer, when I ask you for your time at the end of the workout and you can't answer me, you have to hold up a finger like, give me a minute, or you're rolling on the floor, you don't even respond to me. That's when I know you worked intensely. When you can tell me, oh, I've got to slow down because I'm breathing too heavy, you're not working intensely yet. You're not. You haven't gotten there. You're starting to get close. You feel uncomfortable. And that is not a warning sign. That is an encouraging sign that you are getting to where you need to be in this workout. Because guys, with CrossFit specifically, so intensity or consistency, no matter how you work out, you need to work out consistently. It's consistently. I think we've established that. CrossFit only works if you work out intensely too. So specifically with CrossFit, if you work out at a 70% pace all the time, our workouts are short. You're not going to get enough work in to get the results that CrossFit says you will get. And you will get from CrossFit when you work at that 80 to 90% level. And you have to go there fairly frequently, not all the time, but fairly frequently. You have to go there to get the results you will get from CrossFit, or you're just not working out enough because you're not working out hard enough. And that's why the other methods, when I was working out less intensely at the gym, when I was doing low rate cardio, other stuff, one, I was not as fit. Beyond that, it takes 2 hours. The beauty of CrossFit is you can get really fit working out for a very short period of time because of the intensity factor. So, by going down that path, and let me just say, that's why I am not a big fan of RPE, the rate of perceived exertion. That was a scale that we've come up with in the fitness world. And I get the need for it, because if I'm going to tell somebody, like I just told you, you need to go at 90%, that would be at a 9 on the RPE scale, on my rate of perceived exertion. But if somebody thinks, oh, I'm breathing heavy, I'm at a 10, but they're only at an 8, and I tell you, you need to work at 80%, oh, so I need to dial it back. Now they're only working at a 6. So the problem with RPE is it's very subjective, and I get that it's an imperfect solution to the problem, because even as I'm trying to explain to you what that intensity is and what that 90% is, it's hard. I don't want to grade on the curve with an RPE scale and have you think I'm at an 8 when you're only at a 6. So yeah, I would say when you're starting to breathe heavy and feel really uncomfortable, this is not a warning sign that I'm getting close to 10. This is an encouraging sign that I'm getting close to 7 is where I'm getting to, and I'm about to get into that zone. And then when I get into that zone where I can barely think and I am just doing everything I can to keep going through the motion, now I'm in that intensity zone. At the same time on that, if my form is starting to break down, that is not a sign I'm working too hard. That is a sign I'm starting to get to my threshold on this. I'm going to date myself here, but when I took typing classes as a young man, which is why I'm such a very good and quick typer, we would do lessons where I had to type 60, 70 words a minute, and it didn't matter how many mistakes I made. And that is how I got better at typing faster, because over time, those mistakes would decrease. But if I was just worried about typing perfectly the whole time, I was never going to get fast. If you're not ever willing to sacrifice your form a little, then the way we work out in CrossFit, you are not going to be able to hit that intensity level. It is letting it break down within an acceptable range. And that's why I think you need a coach so often in CrossFit. And I'm going to use an example here, and I think you would appreciate this. Jamie Pomicall is not someone who I have to push to work intensely. Jamie will kill himself. He will murder himself in a workout. He will let his form break down. And that is where, and I'm a kindred spirit to Jamie on this, why I've hurt myself a few times, because he will go too far into that zone and let form break down too much. And sometimes you need a coach to say, all right, yeah, you're there, you're good, but you need to slow down a little bit, because the form, that power snatch is starting to get a little too bad, and now you're going to hurt your shoulder. So it's a gray area that takes judgment in the moment, and that's why it's good to have a coach. But that is not a sign that my form's breaking down that I need to slow down, because that's actually another good encouraging sign that you're getting into that right time zone, that right effort level, that I'm starting to hit a limit where I can't do this perfectly. And I think intensity is walking that fine line between being a dumbass and being a pussy. So here's the lane you've got to walk in between. I don't want to be a pussy, and I don't want to be a dumbass. And you can cross the line on both sides, and because of people's personality, there will be a tendency to go one way or the other. I definitely will say I tend toward the dumbass side due to all the injuries. Then there are those with self-preservation that, due to that, which is wise on their part, may err on the side of, I'm not going to keep saying it since this is a family channel and I want to be family friendly. You don't want to wuss out when you're capable of more, even if form isn't perfect. You don't want to wuss out. So it's walking that fine line between don't be a wuss and don't be a dumbass. That's where intensity lies, right there in the middle. So having said that, okay, which is more important? I think consistency is. If you're asking me if someone comes 5 times a week and they work out at 70% the whole time, are they leaving a lot of meat on the bone? Are they maximizing what they could get out of that workout? No. But they're going to be way better off in life than if they didn't come. There's the other guy that comes only twice a week, and he goes at 95%. He kills himself. He's also doing way better than if he didn't work out. But I'd say if I had to pick one of those two extremes, and I don't think we have to pick either extreme, this is just for the sake of argument, the consistency one is going to be slightly better off than the guy going twice a week and going at 95% both times. But which one can you get back forever? Consistency. The guy who comes twice a week working out super intensely, and then suddenly their schedule changes, their life changes, they come 5 times a week, then they can just come more. There's no gap, there's no learning curve. Now I can just come more and start increasing my gains. If you don't practice consistency, you lose it. You lose the ability to go that consistently. So when you've been doing 70% for the last 2 years, and suddenly we have a come to Jesus talk, and you're right, coach, I need to go harder, and you go harder, you will never be able to go as hard as you would have 2 years ago. And if you've been working out intensely the last 2 years, intensity is a use it or lose it commodity. Consistency is just there as soon as you have the discipline or the opportunity to go more. So intensity is a fleeting skill that you lose. Consistency is just a matter of when I can and when I'm willing to do it, I will do it. So I don't know if that's a more confusing or good answer. So I'm going to say consistency is more important on that level. On the other side, intensity is more precious and easily lost. So having said that, how do I not lose intensity? Guys, if you come into the gym and you tell me my such and such hurts, my such and such is angry with me, that doesn't mean you can't go intensely that day. You can. That's what a coach is there for. That's what good programming is there for. You just have to do it in a more creative way. Telling me your knee is angry, your shoulder is angry, okay, that means we don't press or we don't squat. That doesn't mean the effort is not still involved, that you can't still go to 80 and 90%. We just have to figure out a way around it. This is also a reason sometimes, guys, why I don't like the Whoop watches. I love measuring stuff. You guys have seen Janelle and I wearing those glucose monitors the last few days, measuring our blood sugar. It's been fascinating. And the more information that you have, the better decisions you can make. At the same time, sometimes these things become roadblocks to getting where we need to go. If the Whoop told you had a bad night's sleep and your whatever it is, HRV, whatever it is off, that doesn't mean you can't go intensely that day. That doesn't mean you can't work hard. It just means what is hard for you may not have been hard if everything was perfect. But it doesn't mean you can't still go to that to 9 on that scale of 1 to 10. It's just you may hit 9 sooner. It may be a little lower that day, but that may be the most important day of the whole week that you do go intense, because that's where you get more fit. That is not the day you take it slowly. That just means to know that the outcome may not be as good. And that's why I want to say, guys, you do not measure your success on this by the time on the whiteboard. You measure it by how much of what I had in the tank did I use up? Did I empty the tank? And if the tank wasn't all the way full that day, if I didn't have as much in me because I had a long night, whatever the case may be, fine. I emptied what I had in the tank that day. And those are sometimes the most important day to do that. And in fact, yesterday, let me give you an example I had real quick of walking that fine line between being a pussy and being a dumbass. I was doing those reverse burpees that I was having you guys do. And I'm not good at those. And right at the beginning, I was starting to roll up on those, and I heard every vertebrae pop on my back all the way through. And then I was still trying to do them, but then I was coming up crooked because it was hurting my back. And I came up crooked on my knee, and now my knee's hurting. And Coach John was watching this debacle while I was doing these on the mat by myself and failing. And then I went over, I was like, and I actually stopped. I didn't finish, and I'm admitting this to you guys, I didn't finish, and I went over and I started doing hang power snatch. And that was hurting then too. I did like 4 sets at a lighter weight than I was planning on, and I stopped. And guys, you guys know me, that is very unusual for me, and that has taken all 50 years of wisdom for Dan to do that. And the reason I think I could work out today and be consistent was because I did that yesterday, because I was walking that line between being a dumbass and being a pussy, and there's always a little voice in my head that's telling me I'm a wuss, that I'm a weakling. I didn't listen to that voice yesterday, and I did dial it back a little bit, and I did the not be a dumbass, and it paid off. So I'm not just saying it's mindlessly pushing forward, but I'm also saying there are a lot of excuses we use to avoid the intensity because it is uncomfortable. I think this has gone long enough. I feel like I have more to say, but I'll wind it up with, they are the two sides of a coin. I don't think either one stands up on its own. So while I would say you do need the guy doing consistently 5 days a week is slightly better off. If you're at the gym with us, to get where you want to go, you need the yin and the yang, the intensity and the consistency. All right, guys, I hope that made sense. October 26th, in 2 weeks, we have our end of summer bash at Idle Brewery. And then December 14th, Loaded Like a Freight Train, in-house comp, male, female teams. We have 10 teams. I only want a few more because I want this to be in a comp that we can go from 8 to 1 and be done. So if you want to sign up and don't have a partner, come talk to me and we'll figure something out. Right on. Talk to you later.